What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back for another week of Nocturnal Transmissions. Um, we got your usual movie review, and of course, some stories from the news that we will be reacting to, commentating on, and so forth. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
Yes. Yeah, lots happened in the last few days.
Has it? Yeah, I didn't think there was any news.
Yes. Well, if there wasn't, we wouldn't be here because we wouldn't be doing a show about news or current events. So if there really wasn't anything, we wouldn't be.
It'd be like, hey everyone, good night.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. That would be it. It's like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, good. Like, yeah, my dandelions are coming in. It's like, nice.
All right, cool. See you next week.
Yeah, right. See you next time. Like, hey, catching up. All right, bye. But yes, of course, we are going to be, discussing, Kobe Bryant's untimely death. Excuse me. As well as, it's more Robert, but since he handles the Twitter account for the podcast, he sees things and he notices patterns, and so he wants a chance.
I noticed the patterns.
What was that?
Every fucking day.
Every fucking day. But he wants an opportunity to kind of expound on some things and invent. And also we do have our movie review for this month, and I think we decided to refer to it as Degenerate Month.
Yeah.
And so we'll be reviewing American Gigolos, starring Richard Gere.
Interesting film. I'll say that. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting thing. You know what his middle name is?
What, Richard Gere?
Yeah.
No.
It's Tiffany.
Get the fuck out of here.
I looked it up. I mean, unless someone is doing like a major troll on Wikipedia.
Well, there was, now I don't know if there's any truth to this, but there is the rumor that he would put animals up his ass.
Right, the whole gerbil thing, I remember.
Yeah. Which is like, they also kind of parodied that in the episode A Fish Called Selma, where Selma marries Troy McClure, and he's like, has this like, I thought he had like some sort of like, something sexual with like fish or something like that. They were making
fun which isn't helped by the fact that he lives in like the abandoned Springfield aquarium.
Right. Yeah. So. Oh, Richard Gere.
Yeah. You had a promising career. I don't know what happened, but
he really just kind of like, I don't know if he like retired or he just like, his career really dove off a cliff.
Yeah, kind of like towards like the mid 90s. I think his last kind of major thing he did was that movie with Diane Lane.
Yeah, that's the last. Yeah, that's the last movie I remember too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when they were trying to recapture that Pretty Woman magic with him and Julia Roberts. With I think what was it? I think Runaway Bride.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, at the like the tail end of the '90s or beginning of the 2000s.
But it's that's gonna be a fun movie to talk about. I have a lot of interesting thoughts on that one.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Yes, lots of thoughts about that. I guess let's quickly before we get into everything, let us quickly just catch up with each other real fast. So Robert, how was your weekend?
Weekend was pretty good. What did I do? This past weekend we had the racing season is kind of officially begun. There's a famous race over at Daytona Beach. It's the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. Really famous endurance sports car endurance race, and so I got a chance to watch actually a good portion of that race. Just what those guys do. The engineering behind those cars to make them, run that long and that hard for. And then you have like the drivers. There's 3 to 4 drivers per team. A lot of drivers from lots of different disciplines. So you have stock car drivers, Indy car drivers, sports car drivers. People from all over the world come and to this event and they race in it because it is a highly prestigious event to win. There's several different car classes, so you have guys that are they might finish 25th in the race, but they win their division because there's cars that are within like 50-mile-an-hour difference between different classes sometimes, so it can get pretty hectic. But it's a fun race. It's one that I enjoy watching every year. And so I did that. The other thing I've been trying to do is obviously we had that coronavirus that's outbreaking in China right now, and with obviously I have a little bit of a dog in the fight with that. Not just because there's some reported cases of it coming to the U.S., but my girlfriend does live in China, not in Wuhan, thankfully, but there's still danger, obviously, being out in China. So I went on a search for with the respirator masks that help like kind of protect against it. Obviously, they're sold out everywhere in China. So I want to search for the type of mask that she needs, and trying to get some for her and her family. Getting some like eye protection and some gloves as well to kind of just help keep her and her family protected. But it's the search for those masks was a fucking pain in the ass, just because here, pretty much everywhere online just sold out, and maybe it's because of humanitarian efforts, or you get the hypochondriacs that like get freak out like, oh, it's the end of the world. There's that, but I have a sinking suspicion that there's a lot of people that are trying to profit off of people's like suffering. So let me buy up all these masks, and then I'm going to sell them at a inflated rate when things get really desperate. It's like, and that's I'm giving that more of like a 90% chance is that's exactly what's going on. But thankfully, I was able to find enough, and at a location that I don't think a lot of people would think to buy them from, which I'm not going to say here because I don't want to give people. I don't want the scumbag sellers to.
You're becoming what you hate, Robert. No.
But see, the thing is, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it to benefit myself. I'm doing it to help out others. And I to be honest, I was telling you this before we started that because I'm not a huge. Don't get me wrong. I like charity. I like being able to give to people who are in need. When I'm able to. But I have a huge problem with a lot of these big mainline charities that everyone donates to, like you have your Red Cross, you have your whatever else charities, and you hear a lot of the problems with like corruption, people lining their pockets, profiting off of people's suffering. and I'm not saying it's like the people that are on the ground that are the problem. It's the people that run these charities, and a lot of times you get we're raising awareness. It's like we're all aware. Like what you're taking all our money and the supplies that we donate to you. You're making money off it, so you can throw more lavish parties with your Hollywood friends and virtue signal about how awesome you are, with these charities. But really, nothing's happening. It's all bullshit. So maybe like through my efforts, because what I want to do is to see if I can get people to donate uh, like the respirator masks, the gloves, the eye protection, and I can send them over to China through people that I trust over there, and give it to people that actually need it. And that's to me, that's what I might be only able to help a couple hundred people out of that, but at least I know it's going to those people. It's not just like going to some asshole that's gonna just hoard it and try to make money off of it.
Very upstanding of you, Robert. Yeah, but that's
I
really
mean,
cool.
yeah. So I'm gonna, that's I'm kind of working towards that. Maybe see what so if anyone's listening, they want to kind of help out. Like I'm gonna pay for all the shipping. All I ask is if you have like a gloves or eye kind of eye protection. You don't have to buy like something super expensive, but anything helps. And I'll make sure it gets over there.
Yeah. So anyone out there who wishes to aid Robert in his humanitarian endeavors, drop us a line. Our email is podcast circleofjerks at gmail.com.
Yeah. So that's been my week.
Hmm. Yeah, my weekend was less eventful because of the rains that we've been having. Like the kind of like the mini blooms. My allergies have been kicking up like crazy.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah, my nose is like itching, and I've just been sneezing like machine gun style. It's it's really quite annoying. Because if it was just like one sneeze, it'd be fine. But it's just like after one sneeze, I kind of now like I I kind of got a sense of what kind of sneeze it is, like whether it's like an allergy related sneeze or if it's just just my nose that is irritated. But right now, I know that it's allergies, and so after that first sneeze, I know another one's coming, and another one after that, and another one after that. Um, pretty in rapid succession too. So
It's weird. There's like a different like I know it sounds crazy, but there's a different like tinge to like I can tell like, oh crap, I'm getting sick, type of sneeze, or like when I know
right.
it's my allergies. And people think like, oh dude, are you sick? It's like, no, I'm not sick. Like I just it's the pollen is driving me nuts. Like I can't.
Right. No, no, I get that. Yeah, especially since a lot of my friends had kids, and so whenever I'm around and like my allergies start acting up again, they immediately like grab their kid and like cordon them off and put like it's like that scene in Monsters Inc. Uh, when like the sock is found on the monster and then like I forget what the code is called, what the code is, but all of a sudden like these these guys in hazmat suits come down and quarantine the guy, shave him, and like you know and slap a quarantine sticker on him. That's basically what my friends do whenever I sneeze in front of their kids. But I have to like emphatically reassure them. It's like, hey, this is just allergies. If of course if I was sick, I wouldn't be that dick and go around your kids, even though even though their kids love me, and they always want to play. So it's, sometimes it's hard because it's like no, 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 Uncle Andy's sick. Gotta go, gotta stay away. Um, Yeah, but the quality is just like very different because yeah, when I get a cold or something, it always starts in my throat.
Right.
You know,
Oh
it
yeah.
starts with the scratchy throat, and so. But rarely do I sneeze when I get a cold. It's just more of like the scratchy throat, and but yeah, when I sneeze like in rapid succession, I know, and like my nose is like itchy like crazy, and yeah, it's allergies, and it's kind of hard because a lot of the allergy medicine, is kind of the one that makes you drowsy.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's kind of hard to take during the day, especially when you're trying to get some stuff done. Um, yeah,
Well, was
especially
it? Oh yeah. No. Yeah. So like yeah, the drowsy stuff kind of like it just saps your energy.
right. Yeah, especially this past week when I was just a maniac, and and I was just getting through the episodes for the podcast that were kind of like in the queue, as it were. Um, but I was able to manage, and I got everything out, and I was able to splice everything up for the excerpts and for the Instagram clips, and also and also just to mention, I've decided to start utilizing after let me back up a little bit. After the last episode where we had guest Val on, and he has so many great stories that
Yeah.
and I highly recommend you check that episode out. It is live now. Go to after this, go and check that out. Um, but he shares so many great story from his life. Um, and some were long enough that they warrant like an excerpt, and for YouTube, and but some were just were not as long as an excerpt, but not as short as a clip that I would use for Instagram, which is roughly which is a minute long for Instagram. But then I realized that there's IGTV, Instagram TV, and so I took one of those clips and I put it up on our Instagram IGTV, and yeah, it's a really good, it's a really funny story.
God, it
I
was
don't
so
want to
good.
ruin it. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but do definitely go check out if I piqued your interest at all. Go to our Instagram account. Go to Circle of Jerks podcast on Instagram. Go to, and then it should be the first little box on the feed, and you can watch that clip. And if you enjoyed that, maybe perchance check out the full length episode on our YouTube account.
If you're having a bad day, crack open a bud and listen to the episode. You're gonna have a great time.
Right, and actually for specifically for the IGTV clip, the premium clip, which I'm now calling because it's longer than the normal clip, but shorter than an excerpt. But yeah, Budweiser would be the ideal drink for this for that clip.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, so yeah, I felt very accomplished. It's I was able to edit everything and get it uploaded, ready to go. Ready to drop for the Monday release schedule, and then also I was able to cut up the episode for little excerpts. Because we understand that you might not have time to watch the full length episodes. So we cut them up for you guys, just then as a little enticement. Um, we picking out some of the good bits, and maybe enticing you to watch the full length episode. But yeah, it just felt very accomplished. Um, and then after that, that was the weekend. Oh, and then this morning I got a call about a potential job. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It seems pretty promising. It's a lot of freedom. Um, in the position, and the pay is pretty good. There will be I forgot to ask one thing because it's gonna be like a more of a mobile job.
I
Um,
see. I see.
yeah, so so I do need to ask if and I'm gonna have to be I don't know if I'm probably gonna have to use my own personal car, so probably have to uh, ask about whether we can count mileage. So
Very awesome.
yeah. And I don't know if I should be all that encouraged because this is a job that I found. This is not sponsored, but hey, if you want to give us a check and we'll talk nice about you. But for ZipRecruiter,
Yeah, yeah. I'll talk about. I'll sell. I'm a NASCAR fan. I'll sell anything.
right? So yeah, he's like, send us a check. We'll talk nice about you. Um, there you go. Um, yeah, but I applied through ZipRecruiter. Um, and I think it's pretty cool because they have like it's a very interactive uh, website. I I'm coming to find out because they send you a alert when the employer has viewed your application, and then also if how many times they viewed it.
Mm.
So far, the employer has viewed my resume, that I posted on ZipRecruiter 3 times. Which the in the email for the notification says that that's usually a good thing. That or at least that I mean that at least that's what the website says. It's like it's if an employer looks at your resume more than you know like if they view your resume 3 times, then it's likely that you are being considered. You're actively being considered.
Yeah.
So I mean I don't know if that's true. I'm just going off, but
It gives you hope.
right, it gives me hope, and it's not like they don't need to like tell, and they don't need to tell you like when or how many times the employer has viewed my resume or whatever. But it's one of those small things where it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like and they gave you like, oh, like the second time that the employer viewed it, it's like, oh, wow, you're like in rarefied air because only 17% of employers go back to look at a person's resume twice.
That actually, I've heard that's true.
Right, and then yeah, and then just I mean, a couple of hours before we started the stream, I got another notification from ZipRecruiter, and they're like, "Oh wow, you must be really desirable because only 7% of employers look at a resume 3 times, so which might suggest that they're actively considering you for the position."
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, so crossing my fingers, saying a prayer, sending out the good vibes. Um, yeah, I hope this works out. I mean, for those, I mean, I don't particularly get that personal, but at least Robert knows and James knows, and a lot of my close friends knows. It's been a long time since I've had like a regular job, and it's been hard. It's been one of those it's been one of those really difficult things. Especially when you're hanging out with friends, and you're when your budget's a little tight, and so
Trust me, I know.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, I know, Robert, too, because what was it, like a year before you got your job at the
Yeah, a little over a year. It was nuts.
yeah yeah yeah. For me, it was a bit longer. It was like 5 years since it's been well in May it'll be 5 years since I graduated, finished school, got my degree and everything, and and not it's not as though I've been I haven't been working. It's just like few the work has been few and far between. But having possibly having like a regular something is would be really nice.
Yeah, definitely. We I know, like, I can't speak for everyone else, but yeah, I've definitely been praying for it because I know you got the talent, you're good at what you do, and it's about time that you get recognized for your talents.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, and yeah, and it's not as though I didn't have other opportunities, but sometimes they just like fell through, or sometimes I think it was for the best. Because I remember most recently I interviewed for a position, and um, like the guy who was interviewing me seemed like real like a little too eager to hire me right away. Um, didn't wasn't didn't seem all that interested in uh, my record or my work, and so um, something felt off about that. Even though they're like, "Oh, we want you to start right away," and like it was, yeah, it was just all sorts of like it just kind of didn't feel right.
Yeah, I've been in those situations too. It's like something just doesn't feel right here.
Yeah, but it ended up working out, or I mean, I don't know about working out, but kind of ended up resolving itself. Because I emailed them, declaring my interest, but just had some follow up questions, but I didn't. After that, I didn't hear back from them. So yeah, and I mean, I gave him the weekend to because I emailed them on Friday, and so I gave him the weekend to reply, but didn't hear back, and so I was like, okay,
Oh well, c'est la vie.
and I all right. That was I think that's enough catching up for this episode. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into the stories. I definitely want to get this out of the way. So let's talk about Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Uh, this was kind of a shock because I was
Right?
my mom was the one that texted me. He's like, hey, you hear that Kobe Bryant died? It's like, no, I had not heard that. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, there was, I guess, a helicopter crash, and I was like, yeah, it's just like, but it's like you almost like it's not that like my mom would be lying to me, but it's like you almost had like I gotta check and see if this is real, and it's just like, oh man, yeah, it was, and you see the footage of the wreck, and just a tragedy. I mean, obviously, like he's retired from basketball, but and we it's funny we were talking about we've been last couple of weeks we've been talking about Kobe and like how we're a little bit torn as Laker fans because now we have LeBron James who is I finally after all these years I had to give it. LeBron James is a great basketball player as much as I hate to admit it. Um, but like the reason I don't like LeBron, but it's like he's on my team, so I kind of like begrudgingly root for him.
Right.
And it's like, but when it because he's kind of a jerk. But then you have Kobe, who is like, we love Kobe. It's like he's a jerk too. He was a jerk when he played,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have. I would say like his personal life. I don't know after I don't know if things have changed in his life, but when he was especially when his early in his playing career, his personal life was sketchy at best. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that doesn't take for me. I was more focused on his on court performance, which was magical. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was
Right. It was
it's
impeccable. His performance was impeccable.
but it's like Kobe. He was our jerk. We and so
Yeah.
a lot of people like who are fans of other teams. Like I know I've had fans who are friends who are fans of the Spurs, and they like the Bulls and the Pistons, and they fucking hated Kobe. It was like, well, you know what, my player is better than yours, so
Right.
you
Yeah.
know
It's like my guy's better than your entire team. Um,
that's well, especially against the Toronto Raptors when he scored 81 points, he definitely was.
Yeah.
Because I mean that he had a cast of nobodies, and Kobe's like, yeah, it's just pass it to Kobe. It's just
Yeah, it's just a little uncanny, just the synchronicity of it all. Like, we had, we were, the last stream we just talked about Kobe. Well, kind of secondarily because we were more bitching about LeBron.
yeah.
Um, but we're just, doing a little comparison, compare and contrast, because yeah, LeBron is, LeBron is a, world class douche, and Kobe, his personal life or whatever. I mean, it's his personal life and everything, but some of the but he was a jerk too. So, but we grew up with that jerk, so he's our jerk. So yes, we are a little bit more nostalgic for him, and but I'll admit, now that I'm older, I'm able to um, was it kind of separate the nostalgic part of me and like recognize that, hey, this guy was just as flawed as anybody else, but he did but he did amazing things. He was capable of amazing things, physical acts, um, and
There,
so.
yeah, and I think what I always respected about him though is that drive to win. It's like listen, and a lot of it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because it's he felt like he was different from a lot of the other players who are they're all about like the fame and the fortune and like oh, we got to have the entourage, and he was kind of like the obviously there was the stuff with between him and Shaq. Shaq is kind of more of the loosey goosey, like it's all about having fun and a good
Mhm.
time, and then he would turn it on court. But Kobe's like, no, we need it's like he was like, my only goal is we gotta win, and I'm gonna outwork everybody, and I'm gonna find every way to make this team better, and it drove a lot of people nuts. And there's a lot of people in various different sports that are kind of the same way, and it's like you and a lot of those players or coaches are just they're misunderstood, but there's a special spark in some of these players that's like, god damn, like you can't you can't deny the greatness. Kobe was like that in basketball. You had, in football, you have, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, or
Mhm.
you could even say Bill Belichick is kind of a Kobe-esque in that way. He's an asshole, but man, you can't deny the brilliant mind of Bill Belichick. Um,
Mhm. Right.
in NASCAR, you have Dale Earnhardt, who's obviously he joked around a little bit, but like his main goal is like to the detriment sometimes of his own family. His desire was to win championships and to win the big races and be a kind of the defining star of NASCAR. Um,
Mhm.
and you find it in all these different sports, and they get misunderstood by their peers, but maybe they don't all lead the best personal lives, but there is something admirable about people who, that go out and it's like their only desire is to be better, to improve, and to win.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just remember that morning. When you texted me, it's like, well, first it was a little bit misleading because you said Kobe Bryant was killed, so I thought like someone like murked his ass. Um, but then when I looked it up for myself, it's like, oh, he died in a helicopter crash. Um, and it did hit me hard, or it did affect me. Um, I would, I admit that it affected me more than I thought it was going to. Um, because I don't really consider myself a sports guy. Um, I'm very much a spectator, and but I do love basketball. And I grew up under the time when it was like Kobe, Shaq, Robert Ory, Derek Fisher,
Oh yeah,
Paul Gasol eventually. on and on and on. And so when I heard that, it was just like a little bit like no, stop trying, stop messing around with me. It's like, oh, you just mean that, you just mean, it's like, oh, like, people are, mistaken, or people are misreporting. It's like, oh, it's just this helicopter went down, but he didn't, he wasn't in it, right? But then more, after time went on, more and more information started coming out, and it was just like, damn, and then like, the revelation that his daughter was with him at the time, that just made it even more tragic.
Yeah, and then the people that were with him, the other coach that was, that, and his family that was on board, he actually did a lot for the baseball community, at least amateur baseball.
Right.
He helped out with a lot of the like the Cape Cod League, which is where a lot of collegiate players go during the I think it's like the first part of like spring or early summer, and a lot of the great players that are in the game or have been in the game, they get invited to this Cape Cod League. Like, you have like Aaron Judge, uh, and a lot of players are like his caliber that were in this league that were that this guy helped their careers early on, and he meant a lot to a lot of people in baseball, and it's kind of sad that I mean, obviously it does get overshadowed, because Kobe Bryant was such a huge personality in the sports world, but like was it John? I gonna mispronounce his last name, like Ottabelli, I think is his last name,
Mm-hmm.
and but he's also like a huge impact that's at least in the baseball community. That's a huge impact too, and it's kind of a shame that like him and his family are gone as well, and you have the pilot that's uh, that is dead too, and it kind of reminded me a lot of these some of the in the NASCAR community. There's been a lot of these aviation crashes that have taken some drivers and people in their prime. Infamously in 1993, there was a plane crash that killed the defending series champion Alan Kulwicki on the way to a race. You had later that year, Davey Allison, at the height of his career, was in a helicopter crash and died. Um, and in '04, it was the Hendrick Motorsports team plane crashed, killing Rick Hendrick's son, and a lot of his twin brother and like his family, the engine builder, and a lot of like high up executives in Hendrick Motorsports, and that was a huge hit in the sports world, and it just but yeah, it's just huge, very very sad.
Right. I think one of the other things that was so kind of made you kind of like not believe this happens, because I think um, when you usually hear about uh, celebrities, and especially involving aircraft, it's usually like singers or entertainers. Um, you have like your Richie Valens, and Buddy Holly and John Denver, and it's you kind of expect them more from that realm of
Right.
celebrity. So to hear about it from Kobe, no less, or like a sports entertainer, it just kind of hit, it just kind of like makes you, it kind of gives you that sense of like, whoa, wait a minute, are you sure about this?
Yeah, and it's especially for someone like Kobe Bryant, who was, he was a uh, he was Los Angeles essentially. For especially for our city,
Mm-hmm.
it's man, it hits hard, and it kind of obviously I'm not as super of a basketball fan as some other people have, and so Kobe didn't necessarily. Yeah, obviously I love Kobe, But it does kind of remind me a lot. I go back to 2001 when Dale Earnhardt was killed in Daytona,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just obviously Kobe was his career had been over for a few years, but like super that it kind of that same superstar level where it's like Superman can't die. Like what? Yeah,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
what? Yeah, where?
Yeah.
And
That's what it
it's
was.
just
That's
you're
what it was like. It was a bit. When the news came out that that he had died, it's like Superman can't die. And
right,
like
and it's just
at least that
it's
was the
you're
attitude. I mean, we obviously know that he's not Superman, but it's like the
right. Yeah,
idea of
but
Kobe was like so grand and legendary that it's like no way that he'd go out like that. There's no way he'd go out like that.
and it's like I don't have the same tears as I did back in 2001 with Earnhardt, but like
Mm-hmm.
I understand the fog and just kind of the what people are going through. It's just like it's rough,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like obviously you might not have known him. Like you're not like, oh man, Kobe's my boy. Like I'm and
Yeah,
he's
best
my best friend.
friends. They were in the
Yeah,
same
like
book club together.
yeah, yeah, we have peeing trumpets every Sunday. It's it's not like that, but it's still like it's one of those things where that you grew up watching this guy, kind of, lead your team and through all the ups and downs, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, you go to Lakers games, and it's like you go to watch Kobe Bryant. I'd watch races every Sunday, because like Dale Earnhardt's on, and something exciting could happen,
Mm-hmm.
and just you love the determination, the never give up attitude, um, and just the otherworldly things that these guys can do. And when they're gone, it's like, what? Like this, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of in a lot of ways, his trajectory is almost similar to that of you know, uh, like folklore heroes. Like
Yeah,
I'm particularly thinking of like John Henry. Um, because I don't know if you guys are familiar, but John Henry was um, this guy who was supposed to be the strongest man ever, and he worked the crews, laying down the railway lines, and one the story goes that technology comes in, and they bring in like the steam powered shovel that could do the work of 50 men, and so there was a bit a competition was set up, and it was John Henry versus the steam shovel, and whoever was able to dig their way through this mountain to create a tunnel was the winner. Um, And of course, they went off, and then the steam shovel was going, doing the work of 50 men, and John Henry was going just by himself, but by himself with the chisel and the hammer, and he was keeping pace with the steam shovel, and ultimately, John Henry prevails, and he makes it through the mountain. He makes it to the mountain first before the steam shovel, but ultimately, the feat was so taxing to his heart that he collapses and dies.
yeah,
Um,
Jesus.
yeah, I mean, kind of a downer, but it's just it's almost the fate of all legendary figures to kind of meet their end early.
Yeah, it's I mean obviously it's he didn't die, but like Bo Jackson kind of has that a little bit with had he not had that hip injury, we don't know, but like the all
Right.
the legends and the folklore behind Bo Jackson, it's he was a marvel to watch, and it's like,
Mm.
and we just don't know like how great or maybe mediocre he would have been, but like it's kind of like it, you can kind of always go back and it's like and think, man, what if?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I mean, for Bo Jackson, it was like a death of a different sort.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like I'm not always talking about like the physical death, but sometimes it's a more metaphorical death. In the case of Bo Jackson, because Bo Jackson was amazing.
That
There's
guy. Oh man, he's so insane.
yeah, and I mean, he came up when I was still like really a kid, and my dad wasn't really into sports. My cousins were sort of into sports, and because I didn't have any I didn't have any older brothers, I didn't have any old male figures in my immediate family, other than my father. Sports wasn't really a big thing. So, but because I had friends, and I'd be over their houses, and like we'd watch games, and it's like, oh wow, Bo Jackson's incredible. So that was like my really only exposure. I mean, of course, when I got a little bit older, like, of course, I clung on to Jordan and things like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Kobe was like, my like guy that I like followed. You know, so yeah, so he definitely had a special place. In my childhood, and in my heart, and so on and so forth.
But yeah, it's a sad thing to see Kobe go. Um, it's one of those things that it'll take time for a lot of those wounds to heal, and the well, I think this year with the induction ceremony at for the Basketball Hall of Fame, I think Kobe was supposed to be. I don't know if he was going to be nominated in or inducted in, but it's like um, it's going to be weird not having him there because obviously he's a Hall of Famer. It's
Yeah, of course,
no
of
doubt about
course.
it. But yeah, that's going to be really weird. And maybe that'll be a place where a lot of people they'll tune in, and it's where you can kind of go and heal a little bit. Just kind of reliving all the old Kobe stories through the people who did know him best, and it's just kind of like I go back to 2001, and there were so many like moments in NASCAR that year that just it helped the sport heal a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was back in I think it was like the fourth race of the season. Dale Earnhardt's replacement, Kevin Harvick, who has become a fantastic driver in his own right, but he won in a photo finish like Earnhardt did in that same race the year previously, and it was just I mean I was in tears watching that race, just thinking like wow. Just a wild race, and then back when they went back to Daytona in July, Dale Earnhardt's son ended up winning the race, and it was a way for another way for the sport to heal, and another kind of one of those moments where you're in tears, and I'm kind of hoping maybe that obviously we don't get to see maybe any real moments on the court per se, but I think maybe being able to relive a lot of those Kobe stories, through the Hall of Fame stuff, and be a way for people to heal, and it's gave me a reason to rewatch a lot of the Kobe's greatest hits, the highlights. Um, just man, that 81 point game that was something special, man.
Yeah.
The other one I had totally forgotten about was where I forget who the player was or like what team or what player did this, but they were trying to psych out Kobe, and he
Oh
like
yeah,
kind of
I
like
was just about to bring that up.
yeah, where he kind of shoves the ball in Kobe's face, doesn't even flinch.
Yeah, like the guy pretends like he's throwing the ball at his face, and Toby's just like standing there, like, okay,
What?
now what?
Yeah.
Man,
Oh man.
yeah, and just like, and all the time, like, I forget. Yeah, again, it might have been multiplayers, but like every time, like he took a shot, and like the players like literally had their hands in his face while he was like putting up a shot, and like not having that phase him at all was
Oh, and
the
he would have this great thing like where he'd have two or three guys on him, he'd like shove into them and then kind of shove off of them and do that
right,
like
dude, like
fadeaway jumper.
kind of a shallow fadeaway. But yeah,
And
but then
he
like they
did
would
it.
still like try to like psych him out and like get like the hand in his face, but he was like unfazed, and then he would
Yeah.
sink and then he would sink it in. It's like
And I think that's unfortunately that was also part of towards the end he got those injuries because he was so physical. A lot of people don't realize he was he was more physical than Jordan was in a lot of ways.
yeah,
And I think that, and he played through so many injuries. There was the way that he shot, because I think it was like his two fingers were like just fucked up.
right. No,
He had like nerve damage in them, and so he
right. It
like
was he had the what was it? There was a report that came out that he had the hands of like an 80-year-old by
yeah,
the time he was finished.
right. And the thing is, like on his shooting hand, like his two of his fingers were like, I mean, nerve damaged like really badly. But
Mm.
and he could have gotten. He dealt with it for years, but like had he gotten the surgery, he's like, well, I'm gonna miss 3/4 of the season, and it's like that's not acceptable. And
Mm-hmm.
so he just played through it, and it's like, fuck, dude, like, like get the surgery. It's.
Yeah, for the love
I'd
of
rather not
God.
get. But man, it was just he was such a marvel to watch, and obviously people bitch about him being compared to MJ,
Mm-hmm.
um, but and there is only one Michael Jordan, but
Mm-hmm.
damn if Kobe didn't come pretty damn close.
Yeah, he was like
He
yeah,
was
he
arguably
was nipping at the heels. He was definitely nipping at the heels. I mean, as
he
much
was
as he was in the
arguably
shadows, like Kobe was like right there, right, just nipping at his like just right there. That's how I think in terms of accomplishment. I think that's how close Kobe was to Jordan.
right. And it was I remember even too, like early on in his career, that it was like the All-Star game, which is kind of like, who the fuck cares about the All-Star game?
Yeah,
But
it's just like yeah, it's just like a
Kobe,
bunch of them
but
get.
Kobe
It's like
was
it's like your dream pick for like when you played like NBA Jam or whatever.
right. And then you have but Kobe, it was like, oh, Jordan's in this game, I'm gonna show him up, and like he was dogging Jordan. I mean, Jordan,
Oh, that's
is kind
right.
of.
Oh yeah, that one year that they actually did the All Star game together.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was his rookie year in '96. It was
Yeah.
like '96 or '97. It was so it was right at the um, Jordan's height, and so it's like, oh, Jordan's in this game, I got to prove something. And I mean, that's who thinks like that. It's like, oh, it wasn't like, oh, cool, I made the All-Star team. It's like, no, Jordan's in this game.
Yeah.
I gotta show up and show him
Yeah,
up.
I gotta
I
show him
gotta
up. I gotta show what I gotta show the old man what I'm made of.
exactly,
Yeah, it's
and
one of those
that's.
moments.
But yeah, it'll be go and watch your Kobe highlights, and kind of go back to what we remember, and especially if you go to the some of the older early Kobe, you get a little bit of Chick Hearn too, so you can't go
Oh
wrong there.
yeah. Oh man, Chick Hearn. Did he pass or did he just retire? I think he passed.
He's been gone for a while. Yeah, 2002, I believe he
Oh yeah,
passed
that's
away.
right. I'm thinking of Vin Scully. Vin Scully's the one that retired.
We had LA has had some of the greatest sportscasters ever.
Yeah.
We had Vince Scully, we had Chick Hearn, the what's his face for the Kings, who just retired a couple years ago. Um, crap, I can't. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but our top three sports teams had arguably the greatest sportscasters of all time.
True. Yeah, and well, in terms of the Dodgers, we really lucked out, especially when they moved from Brooklyn to L.A. And Vince Scully came with them, and
Yeah,
Vince Scully, he could have just stayed in New York and just probably
been with like
cast
the
for
Mets.
another team,
Yeah.
for the Mets or the Yankees or whatever. But he came out to L.A. and so
One quick
like
thing
we have
on
like that history as well.
right. One thing about Vince Scully, kind of to to change it up a little bit, but there was recently Don Larson passed away. He threw the only perfect game in World Series history, and
Hmm.
so they were kind of reliving that game, and you listen to the Brooklyn broadcast back then, it's like listening to Vince Scully. It's like, wow. I mean, he stayed. You felt like you were just listening to a game today, or like a recent game that he did. If you didn't know any better, and it's like he just has this smooth, consistent sound throughout his entire career, and it's just like, God, we really lucked out in having him as a sportscaster. It's so awesome.
Word. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, LA. Yeah, LA's. As an embarrassment of riches. A lot of people A lot of people think like LA, has no, history or culture, but it's, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and and interesting enough, it's in the institutions.
I both love and hate the
It's in
city.
the Dodgers. It's in the Lakers. It's in the Kings.
Yeah,
You know,
I both love and hate this city at the same time.
right. Well, yeah. Again, I'd love it if all the transplants would get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Damn transplants.
definitely.
Yeah. Dude, have you ever driven on the freeway during a major holiday? Dude, there's nothing like it. Because all the
It's so
transplants
great.
aren't here. Dude, I was able,
No
like,
one's
a
here.
friend of mine, he works in kind of down, like, a little bit north of downtown.
Yeah.
And he lives, like, somewhere, like, in mid-city. He told me, like, he got to work, because he got to, like, it was day after New Year's. And he was able to get to work from mid-city to, like, kind of near Glendale in 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, what it's supposed to be, people.
I love when everyone leaves the city.
I love LA
beautiful.
in Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Yeah, it's makes going to work so much easier. Oh my God.
Oh man, seriously. All right. Well, rest in peace, Kobe, Gianna. Everyone
and the rest.
and the rest.
But on to less less important news.
Yes. Yes. For those of
Let's go
you
to
who can't, because we do have a bit of a crowd tonight. But for those of you who only came for the Kobe talk, I would still encourage you to stay and listen and and maybe jump into that into that chat. Even if you might not agree what we're about to say, but just keep it open mind. That's all we're asking.
I don't mind the hate comments. Screw it.
Yeah. Again, you're talking to me, dude. I'm the one who's always trying to court the what is it? The hate
Court the
comments.
hate.
But yeah, Robert, why don't you take it away?
So I have some Twitter thoughts. Things that I see. Pretty, because I'm on it fairly regularly, even if I'm not always posting every day. Like, I kind of scour through it, see what's going on, get caught up on, potential, sports stories, news stories, and the like. And well, the first thing I want to talk about, it's actually something that happened during our break that I had been wanting to get to, and there was, and this is also pretty typical of what I see a lot of the time. And one of the guys that I follow, he's on the Cinemassacre YouTube channel, Mike Matei, and one of the things that he's always pretty he harps on. He streams a lot for the site, but he plays a lot of the older games because that's what he grew up with. That's what he likes. And lately there's been a lot of ports of some of these older games to newer consoles, but they're not dumbing down the games, but they create ways to make these hard games easier. And he put out something where, and I tend to agree that, if you're using these rewind features or save states, and stuff to kind of help you get through the game, you didn't beat the game. It's and it's like you didn't beat it for real. And in typical Twitter fashion, because it upset people in the gaming community, saying that like, oh, how dare he tell us we didn't beat the game. It's like, well, we can't all beat it on hard mode. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like he didn't say that you should feel ashamed of yourself that you that you did it that way. If you want to play the game that way, that's fine. But if you want to be technical about it, you didn't really beat the game the way it was meant to be beat. You kind of cheated in a way. And for me, I agree. It's like, and there's games that I've had to use save states in the past to kind of because there's no other way I would have been able to beat it. So I don't feel that I didn't. Yes, I technically I got to the end of the game, but I didn't beat it in the way it was originally intended.
Interesting.
But then in another typical Twitter fashion is that, oh, well, now because he said something that was true and it pissed off a lot of other people, so instead of actually having a rational discussion or disagreeing, it's like, oh, well, I don't really, you're racist for saying that. It's like, and well, and one thing, because the other thing about Mike Matei is he's an artist, so he does a lot of comics and a lot of stuff for the website. And someone posted one of his comics that is pretty funny actually. And it's like, well, I don't this is I don't care about the opinions of a racist. And it's like, dude, in my mind, it's like, well, so pretty much he's won the argument, because you have no argument, so you're going ad hominem, you're trying to attack his credibility instead of actually debating what he says, because you have nothing, that he's right. So this is obviously this is kind of the but it wasn't just with him. I see this with so many other things that are going on in Twitter, where it's like, okay, so you don't have an actual real comment or a real discussion point or a point of
or like a thought out logical argument.
right. And so you're just going to attack the person or write it off. It's like, yeah, that's a real winning attitude there, guys. So that's stuff I see on Twitter all the time, which is who I forget who it said. It's like once you start getting called racist or whatever for your thoughts, you've already won the argument, because they have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just I forget what I heard this story, but I don't know who the teams are, but it's like a college football team, and it's kind of a rivalry, and one team beats the other, and at the end of the game, the two coaches come out to meet, and the coach that won's like, "Oh, good game, coach. You fought hard. And, you shouldn't. You have nothing to be ashamed of." And the losing coach, kind of having a bad attitude about it. It's like, yeah, well, we got the most first downs. And yeah, and then so the winning coach goes like, "All right, next time we'll play for first down, for the most first downs."
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that that's what we were playing. I didn't know that was how the points work. First downs. It's like, that's a point, right? Stupid. You play to win the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to really quickly, because you're talking about how the people they use, I guess these, that kind of win out of technicality. It's like, yes, they beat the game, but because of X, Y, or Z. God, where was I going with this? Just kind of like a historical context. Would you have a problem with Alexander the Great and the Gordian knot?
In the what?
The Gordian knot.
In the Gordian knot?
Yeah. There's this thing, this big this yoke to this cart, and there was like this huge gnarled knot. And it was said that whoever was able to unravel it would, be like, the master of the world, basically. And so, Alexander the Great looks at this thing. He looks at this huge, like, knotted mess, and he takes out a sword and he hacks it, and he hacks it apart, basically. And so technically, so by doing that, he technically undid the knot.
See, that to me is like more of a. I think this actually does correlate with this argument, where it's like, okay, yeah, you did it, but you were not following the initial intention of what this was meant to do. So in that case, I would say, like, yeah, I would not say he did not undo the knot. He cheated. But there's all sorts of like these little like things on Twitter where it's like, people say something, it's like, they're sharing actually an interesting thought, or something that I think, it's like, oh, that's actually an interesting let me think about that for a second. But instead of actually, we're so many people are intellectually deficient, or aren't willing to like actually think through things, and so they just, oh, well, that's such a racist comment, or some other just stupid bullshit that it's like, my God.
We got a message from the Peanut Gallery from David Blake. Hey brother, just tell them you're racist. I hate everyone equally. Sorry about your sorry about your luck. I think he was talking that. I think that might have been in reference to the story about the two football coaches.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. David, what exactly were you commenting on there? Let us know. There's a little bit of a lag, so we'll have to wait until you respond back to that.
But anyway, so the next kind of thing that I constantly see on Twitter, which this is a little bit more annoying than the previous story, is you get these people who are constantly saying like how who supposedly their parents. I don't even know if that's true, but I'll take that. I'll say that yes, they are parents.
Okay.
But they're always saying like how their kids are saying all these like woke sentiments, and like one in particular that kind of drew my ire was it was someone who's a gamer, and she's saying like my daughter's like who is like, my daughter, mommy, you know why I like PS4 newer games more than old PS1 games? Why is that? Because there's more girls to play with. And it's like, and she's kind of doing the the hand clap or whatever. It's like, wow, my daughter's like, this conversation never fucking took place at all. I guarantee it that this conversation never happened. And I see this shit constantly on Twitter every fucking day, and it's like, none of these conversations happened. You know how I know? Because no kid in the fucking known universe gives a shit. They like the newer games because a lot of times they're they make stuff that it's a little bit more, the graphics are nice, it's more colorful.
It's a little bit more refined. It's a far departure from the first generation the PlayStation games with like square boobed Laura Croft. So like the graphics, the graphics have been refined, and so it's a lot nicer to look at. So of course they prefer the newer games to the older ones. But, it's just because that's what they know, or that's the era of gaming in which they were brought up in. It's just like us when we grew up with the first generation NES, or even further back Atari. It's like we think very fondly of those games because we grew up with them. And those were our first exposures to video games.
Right. And and so like I understand like why like younger kids like newer games. It makes sense. But this conversation never took place. I get
Or
it's
just to add on to your observation of like these kind of like woke kids, you know, kind of teaching us adults, what's what, or having the wisdom of the ages at basically 8. Um, the idea that that kids are supposed to teach us, adults, is just a laughable concept. You know,
fuck no.
I mean, when I was like 4 or 7, it's just like I don't know why people marvel at when kids just kind of utter obvious truths. It's not even that it's so that these kids are so profound. It's just they're obvious truths.
Listen, I'm not saying that like these kids are stupid
Well,
or
I'm saying
whatever,
it.
but not in the like sense like like they're. I'm not saying that they're unintelligent or not capable of you know thinking, but like the young kids do not have minds to think about complicated social
Complex,
issues like that.
abstract kind of ideas like that. Yeah,
Well,
their minds aren't capable.
we talked about this, in in your favorite time of us discussing 13 Reasons Why, and one of my
Oh,
main
okay.
points talking about, I'll say one of my main points in talking about that is like kids think in a very black and white world. Even I would say even in the the high school age, it's a
Okay, so
very black and
adolescence.
white.
Adolescence.
Right. There's not a lot of abstract thought. And that's not because they're stupid, it's just that's how the mind works. It takes a lot of age and wisdom and just kind of observing and having experience to realize that things are a lot more you know the truth is not very it's not shallow. A lot of times it's very murky and you have to
Or
swim
it's,
through a
yeah,
lot
or it's
of
just very, it's very, it has great depth.
right. Yeah,
Truth
it's
is
like
truth
all
has great depth. It's
yeah.
yes, there are certain levels to truth. So but um, I think like the greatest truths have like the most depth.
Right. All shallows are clear.
Yeah, exactly. Real
um
quick. Yeah, the Blake. These kids nowadays need a good boot to the ass moment.
that's true.
That's true. You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong.
But yeah, so that's something I see a lot on Twitter. And it's not even like the left, but it's even like you get occasionally get like the random like supposed conservative, like where their kids are saying something that's like conservative, like that conversation didn't happen either.
Right?
It's
Yeah. It's
like
like damn. It's like those damn liberals are destroying this country. It's like your kid did not say that.
yeah. And the fact that you would exploit your kid to make
Yeah.
this
And even
point,
and then
like
even if they did say it, they're probably just mimicking what you said. Especially if
yeah,
they're a very young child and they're just like kind of parroting.
this will make mommy or daddy happy, so I'll
Exactly. Yeah.
say
It's
it.
like when a kid repeats a swear word, they don't know what the word means. It's just they know that it gets a reaction out of the adult. So that's why they keep saying
Yeah.
it. You know,
Pretty much.
pretty much. So it's yeah. So it's not as though yeah. So it's not as though children, you know, uh, it's not as though children carry this depth within their souls, and they have the wisdom of the ages. It's just sometimes I'll admit sometimes kids say some pretty profound stuff, even though that you don't think that they would be even thinking about it. But the kind of conversations like like the one you mentioned about like, oh, I love because I love the newer games because there's more female characters I can play with. It's like that's not a real conversation, and that's kind of what the problem is for a lot of writing today, especially like within television, is like they don't know how to write. They don't know how to
No,
write
God, no.
real conversations. It's just like I watched, well, because I like Star Trek, and I saw the first episode for the new Star Trek Picard show.
How is that?
Not as terrible as I was imagining, but not as good as I wanted to be. Um, it's just like they don't understand Star Trek. So like the dialogue is very stilted and interestingly enough, the young people sound like, even though it's supposed to be like 300-400 years in the future, the people sound like people that talk. The way they speak is the way they speak now.
That's not Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like the young people, like one of the lead characters, she says dude, and she kind of talks like a young person today.
That doesn't make any sense. That defeats the whole purpose of Star Trek, because it's the language is it's better than what you and I would say. It's
Exactly.
supposed to be, there's no more of like, because Roddenberry was trying to create outside of like a lot of other science fiction, which is more of a like dystopia and all these types of things. He wanted to create a positive view of what science fiction could be, like what the future could be, and so
Right. It's a
his
human.
his
Yeah.
vision
His was
was
a
a
humanistic.
positive vision.
Yeah. His was like a humanistic or humanism, like utopia.
Right,
Where
and
it's like,
that's what.
no more are we bogged by religion or like other like ideologies. It's all about the betterment and advancement of
Mankind.
humankind that eventually lifts us out of the darkness, and we're able to live in peace with each other, and we're free from want and need. And
Yeah,
as kind of ridiculous as that sounds to me personally, it's not a bad dream to aspire to.
I don't think so either, and that's what I love about Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's different,
Mm-hmm.
and to inject kind of crude 21st century language into it. It's just like, it's not Star Trek. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, and it's just the what is it? Uh, it's the injection of uh, what is it? Contemporary political issues. And you could say that Star Trek has always been an allegory, or about our time, or you know or a mirror for society, because like back in like TOS, it was all about the Cold War between the West and Russia. And then like even in like the movies, like Undiscovered Country, which is one of my favorite Star Trek movies, is about
So
the
good.
the collapse of the Soviet Union. But it wasn't, and it was, what is it? And then it was like Kirk's kind of reconciliation, or kind of adjusting to his the anachronism that is him, because he
Right.
was Kirk the warrior, he was Kirk the fighter of Klingons, but now like they're the Federation and Klingons are coming, are trying to cobble together some kind of a peace agreement. And so it's his kind of making peace with all of that stuff. But it still worked, but because it wasn't like saying, it wasn't it didn't take a stance on it. It didn't say that
One side was better than the
right. It
other,
wasn't
but it was
good
just
that it wasn't good that the Klingon Empire was falling, um, or that warmongering on the Federation side was a good thing. It just kind of presented the case, and it let the audience decide for themselves.
right, and that's the great part about it.
Yeah,
but yeah, but going back to Twitter, that conversation never took place. None of those conversations ever take place. So you see that on Twitter, just know none of that happened.
right.
Garen fucking
It's
T.
kind of like, it's also kind of that story that Nancy Pelosi told about her grandson, and about like his Mexican friend. It's like, oh, I wish I had brown skin like him. This beautiful brown
that
skin.
never happened. Just like T-Bone and
T-Bone.
T-Bone and Clayface, or what was the one that Biden was talking about? Like Claypot or Clayface or whoever the fuck he was talking about. That he was that he confronted with a. None of these people exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, T-Bone definitely did not exist.
Oh man, T-Bone.
Oh God.
God, who thought that he was going to become
forgot
president?
about that for a second.
I mean, who actually thought that this guy was going to become president?
All the pain. Let me get my sad eyes out.
It's a hell of a drug. All right.
Anyway, so my last Twitter thought, and this is probably the thing I see the most, because I'll see like 2 or 3 posts like every couple of hours about this, and obviously we get I had to look this term up because I had no idea what the fuck it meant, but like there's the like e-thoughts or whatever.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
What? I had no idea
that thought is the THOT. That hoe over there.
Yeah, I had no idea what that meant. I had to look that up a couple days ago. I was like, what is this? I'm seeing this like nearly 8 times a day. I should probably look this term up because I had no idea what it meant. And obviously like they're scantily clad women. It's like that are on like doing streams of
who use their bodies to make money. That's basically what.
I'm not saying that all of them do this, but like it's a factor. At least at the very least, it's a factor. Come on, it's like would you rather see me streaming a game or some buxom lady
scantily clad hoe? Yeah, exactly.
It's like clearly like I would have to be dancing through hoops and giving people money to get.
You never know. You never know. Maybe we should try
it. Hey, I'm for it. Like, the hell about the channel? Forget me. Like, get a get a.
No, that it has to be you, because then it would be so strange. People would be like, it'd be like a car crash. It's horrible, but you wouldn't be able to look away.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you don't know. I'm a woman. I'm defining myself as a woman today. So
you identify. You're That's all that matters. You don't need to snip it. You just need to identify.
You're a bigot. How do you not? How are you not attracted to me?
But anyways, please continue on with your e-thoughts.
Anyways, so you always hear like they're supposed to always getting like these messages from supposed like followers or like from their direct messages about how these supposed guys are asking them all these questions, like kind of like this really just weird kind of like cartoonishly like ridiculous stuff that like guys would say that have like no social cues about stuff, or they're just creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that happens, unlike our last Twitter thought, where that 0% of the time these conversations are happening. I'm not saying this is 0%, where like there's people that do get these messages. I have a sinking suspicion about probably about like 80% of the time it's all bullshit. Like that, they're coming up with like their friends or kind of creating these things. So it's like, oh, how dare you talk like that to a woman? And to get these reactions out of people and like, oh man, they're so terrible, or trying to out these people and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, the fact that this happens, so many times, like to you, like it's like it's a lot of times it's the same people that are getting these messages. Like you're not getting it that much. I'm sorry. It's just and it's almost like the same type of message too, like where it's like the words are very similar, and it's like something just I smell a little bit of bullshit. And part of the time is like you get these you get these women. It's like they're kind of they're doing like this weird like the premium Snapchats and the OnlyFans and giving money to see my naked photos kind of type of girls.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have a feeling that not a lot of that's happening.
Right. I
And
mean,
if it
I
is, like,
appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit, because because Playboy has become a bit of an anachronism. So
sure.
yeah. So I actually know a few, or I know of certain Instagram people who that do the Patreon thing, and like and do like the tastefully shot kind of like Playboy spreads, and they put it behind a paywall, and good for them. That they're able to kind of subvert, or not subvert, but go around like the whole like system of like publication and going through Playboy, or Penthouse or Maxim and stuff like that. Congratulations on you for that. But if you're going to put yourself out there, just you have to be aware that you know there are creeps out there. There are
Like I
creeps,
said,
and
I'm not saying that it never happens because what is it there? Yeah, there's a lot of these like really like weird dudes out there. I'll
mhm,
admit that. Yeah, that uh, there are those people,
mhm.
but the amount of times that it's happening, like, and it's like I said, the why I call bullshit on some of these stuff is because of how similar. I can't say that word. Similarly
Similar
worded
the language is,
on all these direct messages,
uh-huh.
where it's like something tells me that like I have a feeling that some of these people are having like their girlfriends or whatever like write these messages like ugh, look at they're creating like these fake accounts to,
Right, and
and it's
like
like, oh,
the and
I'm
like
calling
the
this
and
bastard
the
out.
right, and the screenshots that they show us are usually of from accounts that don't have a profile picture. It's just like the default, or like some sort of anime character or whatever.
And I'm all for calling people, if you're getting threatened or like, if it's a reality and it's like, I'm all for like, kind of blasting these people and like, fuck this guy. It's like he's trying to be all secretive or, this person, they're like doing something that's like, this is scary, like,
Mhm.
and you put it out there. I'm all for that. But the amount of times and like just how, um, similarly worded some of these direct messages are, and it's like they don't look like real accounts.
Mhm.
It makes me think it's like, yeah, this is not real. Like this didn't take place,
Right.
and that's not out of the realm of possibility because that's kind of how Candace Owens kind of moved more towards the conservative side because she was trying to create something. I forget what she was trying to create, but it was more to help out. Um, something with like girls or whatever, and it's like
Oh yeah, I remember it was like social autopsy, where it basically pulls back, or like her words, not mine, but pulls back the masks off of certain accounts, so you know who it is, and you can basically like blackmail them, and kind of like the prelude to cancel culture, essentially.
right, and
So you can
what it
have
turned and
the evidence of all the, like the wrong think, or like the spicy takes, and then you can send it to like that person's employer and get them fired, essentially.
right, which to me is kind of a good thing because if someone is anonymously through the anonymousness of the internet is actually threatening you or saying really like not just disagreeing with you, but actually like maybe threatening your life or saying something that's like, wow, that I can't let that go, and to be able to pull the mask off of that, and it's like, yeah, I'm calling this person out because this is illegal for in a lot of ways. Yeah, in some cases it's illegal. Um, I was like that. That sounds like a great idea, and I think it would cut out a lot of the the bullshit that we see online.
Well,
But the person that was saying, "Oh, this is a bad idea," it was Anita Sarkeesian's friend, part of the whole Gamergate, kind of stuff that was going on a number of years ago, and I forget her name, but it's all of a sudden like when Candace went against her, and it's like, no, I'm still gonna do it. She got all these like racist, messages and stuff like that, and it was created by this chick, and so it's not out of the realm of possibility that a lot of these, kind of screenshots of DMs that we're seeing it's all made up bullshit just to create a reaction, and but I see this all.
Yeah, that's where I would slightly disagree with you, because having something that exposes you, or or maybe having a spicy take on something, or making an edgy joke, but then used as evidence, or as a cudgel to beat you over the head with, I don't think that's good either, because there's obvious opportunities for abuse, for that website that Candace had previously tried to create, and like I'm like you, and I understand, like, to reveal like the fakers out there is, it's a useful tool, but the temptation to abuse it is too high.
Well, yeah, that's like I said, I see the benefits, and I see what you're saying too. And it's you get one problem or you get the other. It's like I personally think that there's if it wasn't so anonymous, like as far as like Twitter or some of these social media things, and obviously in some cases, like through we have like our page, for the Circle of Jerks podcast, because that's us, it's not just me, it's you and me and the rest of the jerks, kind of sharing our stuff and whatnot. But for me, like, it's like, for me, it's like that, my personal Twitter page, it's me. Like, I don't have like a persona or whatever. And so it's like, if, I'm not hiding anything. But I think a lot of the, not, the people feel like, oh, well, I'm anonymous. Oh, I can say, I can be edgy. I can say whatever I want. And, I can say the most outlandish stuff and nothing's going to happen to me. And a lot of these stupid little controversies on Twitter and the outrage culture, like if people weren't anonymous, like they actually had to show up as like who they were, it cut out 90% of the nonsense.
Right. Well, that's why I like this. I like doing videos and stuff like that, because I don't have very PC takes on things, and so if someone wants to, and if someone wants to, try and do like the whole like taking me out of context bit, I could then rebut them by offering the full clip, or like the full thing that I said, instead of just like the little snippet that I said. And so that's why I don't really use my Twitter very much. I use it more as a way to get people to look at my Instagram. Being a photographer, the visual is my medium.
Right.
Because if people really want to know what I think, all they have to do is watch the stream, or all they have to do is watch the podcast, or listen to the podcast, and they'll know exactly what I'm thinking, or what I think about a certain thing. And they could try to take me out of context, but then I have like the full, and then I can just put up the full clip, and it's like you're lying.
Yeah. Anyways, those are some of the Twitter thoughts I had. Just what I see, pretty much every day. It's, part of me is like, I'm not like upset about it. It more or less like just makes me laugh. It's like, oh my god, I'm so. It makes me laugh just at how stupid people are. and just some of the nonsense that I see every single day.
Yeah, everyone. So basically the takeaway is everyone's stupid except for us.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll go with that. As I sleep on the couch with a cigar, everyone's stupid except
on your
for me.
polyester couch. Yeah, on your polyester couch with a lit cigarette in your mouth.
Yeah.
All right. And for those of you unaware, that's your Simpsons reference of the episode.
I always try to sneak one in.
Yeah, I know. Yes, but for the stupider folk, I have to point it out to them.
Oh yeah, in that episode was Homer the Heretic.
Yes. All right. Let's wrap this up with the movie review.
All right.
And this week again is American Gigolo, starring Richard Gere and Lauren Hutton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, that's right. That's who the female lead was. I forgot her name.
Yeah. All right. Let me give you a quick synopsis of the movie. Julian, a gigolo, commands high prices for his services, living a lavish, if emotionally unattached lifestyle under the management of Anne. While secretly working for pimp Leon, Julian is assigned to service Mr. Ryman and his wife Judy, but leaves when their violent requests make him nervous. When Mrs. Ryman is found dead and no one is willing to testify on his behalf, Julian finds himself a primary suspect.
So it was funny. So because initially this movie month was supposed to be just like a random. I just picked 2 movies at random, and this was one of the first ones that for some reason came across my purview. I was just looking at like movies I wanted to kind of checking through Amazon Prime, seeing what movies I wanted to watch, and for whatever reason, this was on my like suggested viewing list.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, this is kind of odd. Like, yeah, I had never heard of this movie. I was like, oh, Richard Gere's in it, okay. And I was like, why this one? And the reasoning I think is because we were doing that month where we were doing the Who Wore It Better month in December, and
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at like originals and remakes. Well, I was like, when I started watching, it's like, this is Deuce Bigelow. Yeah, obviously it's the serious version of it, but this is Deuce Bigelow.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
even
right.
down to like the Black Pimp, you had the scene with like Richard Gere using that I forget what that device is called, like where you're doing like the upside down.
Where you like go hang upside down and then you like with the weights, but for Deuce it was the aquarium cleaning apparatus.
Yeah, right. And like the because Richard Gere's character Julian fucks older ladies, just like how in Deuce Bigelow, Rob Schneider's character is hanging out with all the old and kind of like weird, funky ladies, and it's like this is the Deuce Bigelow. This is the original. It's obviously, and I was like, oh my god. So that I was like, this is why this came across my purview. Now I know why. So and because I had watched it, I was like, oh, okay, I was like, this actually has a lot of cinematic archaeology to it. It's like this is perfect for us. This is a great random movie to throw in for the review.
Yes, this surprisingly does.
So one thing that that was obviously like the big thing that I noticed throughout the film. I was trying to catch like all like the Deuce Bigelow like kind of like, oh, that's in Deuce, all these potential scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of intriguing at first because you're kind of like, ooh, now it's like you knew there was going to be trouble like that. Wait, he went in with I think he was like a senator or a state senator or something like that was that was into like weird kink stuff and ended up killing his wife. And because he's in power and all this stuff, he kind of framed Julian for it. And well, the whole thing, it was kind of set up, what we find out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that part was like kind of, kind of intriguing. Kind of like, oh, all right, it's kind of like a murder mystery with a prostitute. And this also felt a little bit like Pretty Woman in reverse. Like where so like
A little bit more
Julian,
serious one, a little bit more
right?
serious,
I mean, because
less
Julian is,
rom com.
yeah, less rom com, but like it had like those kind of elements because he was the prostitute that was being wined and dined by the rich woman, the rich lady.
By the rich old hags.
Yeah. Um, but the one thing that like I didn't care for how the movie ended, just because supposedly we're left thinking that like, oh, Julian makes it through, but he doesn't. Like it just the
Right? Yeah, he
ending.
definitely got raped.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, Julian does get raped in prison. We all know. He doesn't show it, but he gets raped. Um, yeah, no, this was a very interesting movie. Just the thought of like kind of the reversal of instead of like uh, the female prostitute, you have the male prostitute, and um, you kind of have like this some slightly political intrigue um, mixed with kind of like I hate using this word because the word is tainted for me now, but that kind of like subverts your expectations.
yeah. We're gonna steal that word back.
We're gonna make subvert great again. Um, um, and I think it would lend it a little bit more. I think the fact that the prostitute, being male, lend itself, I think, pretty nicely to like kind of like the harsher treatment. Because if it was a woman prostitute, that they'd be a little bit more like sympathetic. I think or like this supporting characters would be a little bit more sympathetic. Maybe handle a little bit more with kid gloves.
Right, and this kind of, in a lot of ways, it kind of feels a little bit like Joe Buck, and he's uh,
Mm-hmm.
where it's you kind of like him being a male prostitute as well,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, obviously who led a fucked up life,
Mm-hmm.
and in the same way, obviously we're not given as much background on Julian, but clearly he has not had a like he we see him at like kind of like where kind of I guess quote unquote the prime of his career. But I think the reason he's making the money that he does is because he's doing the jobs that no other one wants to take on.
Or he's operating at a level in which his the price his demands merit the price that he asks for. Because
Right,
it's not as though like in Deuce Bigelow there's a kind of like almost like a training montage in like how he like kind of perfects his craft. But
right,
We're seeing Julian fully perfected. He's kind of to borrow a Pokemon term, he's in his final form.
right. Yeah,
He's in his final
exactly.
evolution. Um, so he's at the top of his game. He knows exactly what he's doing. Like even like in like kind of like the meet cute for Julian and what's her face Michelle, the senator's wife. Like they're like he his skills are so honed that he like looks at her or he thinks that she's this his usual target, but then he quickly ascertains like, oh no, that I misread you. You're not the person that I thought you were.
And what's crazy is like he's learning languages just for the sake of like the job. So he knows
Right.
like it's inferred that he knows many languages
Mm-hmm.
fluently.
Right. Or like he explicitly says that he knows like 5 languages. And like you see at the beginning when he was like working out and he was listening to like those language tapes for Swedish. he had this big contract coming up, and he was specifically learning Swedish so as to interact with the client.
Right.
So yeah,
But
this
yeah,
isn't just like the trim you get on Hollywood Boulevard, at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's
no,
top
no.
shelf.
Yeah, he's top shelf ass.
Yeah.
It's not the something I found like kind of like interesting too, that Julian talks, because um he's asked, like, why do you go after, or why are you with like the older ladies? And he says it's like, and maybe because, like, he's, like you said, where he's at like the final evolution of his craft. And
Mhm.
so for him, obviously, a lot of them tend to have more money, yeah, at least the ones that he's bagging.
Mhm.
But he says, like, to me it's more of a challenge, because to be with like younger girls, it's easy to like arouse them, to please them in many different ways.
Mhm.
With older women in the bedroom, like it it's much more of a challenge. Like, and so for me to, I feel like I can be the best at my craft by doing it this way.
Mhm.
um which is kind of fucked up, to be honest. But um in a weird way, it's like, okay, I mean, if that's your job, like, because the his what's her face, when she's saying, like,
Lauren Hutton's character.
when she's saying, like,